Hello and welcome to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today I want to talk about Fantasy Flight Games and whether or not they should possibly look into getting the intellectual property rights from a different brand other than Star Wars to make a war game out of. Now I would say instead of a full-on war game, I would maybe look at making a skirmish game, as that seems to be something that FFG doesn't really have right now and could possibly fit, right into. So before we do talk about that, if you like this video, at the end of the video, do consider pressing the like button. And if you're not already subscribed, please do also consider doing that, as it really does help. Couple of things, there's so many things going on. So number one, FFG are going to be hosting an event at Adepticon. They have said that they will be doing product announcements. Now, I personally don't think that this is going to be a new game, but I could be wrong. And if it is a new game, Star Wars would be the thing that normally gets announced. They would, in the same Facebook post, they're talking about how Legion's got a demo, X-Wing has got a demo, etc. So sort of implying it's Star Wars based, right? But it might not be. And I've been thinking lately, I've done a video before in the past, and you may have seen this, you might be like, you've talked about this before, where I said FFG could possibly look into getting a different IP, but I was talking about that when I was talking about if Star Wars basically becomes a bit rubbish. If it becomes less revered, it goes down the toilet, nobody really likes it anymore, what happens to FFG? Because a lot of their games are Star Wars based. The answer to that was Star Wars, FFG, big enough company that it wouldn't really matter in the long run. Yes, it would be upsetting, and I thought they would diversify, and I still think they might diversify. So what do I mean by diversify? I think they might go for a different IP. And what IP, right? So when you think about the world's big IPs, you've got Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Batman, Marvel, all that kind of stuff, right? And a lot of them are already war games, so that would be an issue. So what could they possibly do? And why would they do this? Well, the why is what happens to Star Wars if it goes bad. And it's always good to diversify, just so, in case one thing gets more popular than something else over time. And I was thinking about it. They have a relationship with Disney because of the Star Wars things. Now they have some sort of relationship with Disney, and it seems to be going okay. That doesn't seem to be a problem there. So I looked at IPs that perhaps Disney have access to. Now I don't necessarily know if FSG would have to deal with Disney directly. I don't know the ins and outs, but I also think we would be mainly looking at a skirmish game. As yes, we've got X-Wing, which is ships on a 3x3. We've got a 6x3 Legion game, 6x3 Armada game. I think maybe like a 2x2 skirmish game would be a really good place for FFG to put itself to compete with Kill Team, Warcry, etc. And Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia, when I was researching it, I was like, oh, that's not a good idea. But when I was thinking about it, if you take Aslan out of it, for those of you unfamiliar with it, Aslan is the lion. I'm a big fan of Narnia, by the way, just randomly, really like the books. But when you take Aslan out of the equation, it's got everything really. It's got witches, it's got dwarfs, it's got everything in the fantasy universe you could really ask for. And yeah, I think it would be it would be a really interesting direction to see FFG going, just to be like, all right, we're going to have a little skirmish war game with Narnia. Narnia, I think it's owned by Disney, right? At least the films were. The problem with this is there's a TV show getting published to Netflix, I believe, and Disney and Netflix are having a bit of a ding-dong, so I'm not 100% sure if this will go ahead, but maybe if you had a new skirmish war game to go along with the new TV show, boom, you have a nice mix and a nice chance of something. Now, obviously, there are other IPs. I'm not going to go through them all because I don't really know them all. But there was one that sort of sprang to mind, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of. But we'll look at it anyway, Steve. It's Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Not really a big fan of this myself. But Blood and Plunder's a game, and there's something Badgers and Burrows, I think, might be a game. Pirate games are already a thing. But if you do a really successful one, you could be in with a decent show. Also, it makes sense that maybe you don't have any factions, or you could even have factions, and you just acquire pirates and it's all about gold and stuff like that. It sounds like it could be cool with a really good IP and a really good company behind it. You know, you could definitely achieve some sort of like good success with it. That very much sounded like something else. I do apologize. And Pirates of the Caribbean is pretty big. It may be done to death, but there you have it. Now there is obviously the Star Wars license, but I don't know how FFG could use the Star Wars license to make another skirmish game. If you make a really smaller scale version of Star Wars Legion, you end up very similar to Imperial Assault. If you make a bigger version of X-Wing, you end up with Armada. If you end up you can't really make a smaller version of X-Wing. I don't think that makes any sense. I personally, as of right now, could not see how you could make another. I can't even say how you would make another game with the Star Wars license without it very much going over into a different game as well. You could maybe do different rules for Legion as a skirmish game, a little bit like Kill Team has done with 40k, but I can't really see them doing that. But it's, you know, it's possible. I ain't gonna rule it out because I don't know for certain. I think the Adepticon release is not going to be announcements aren't going to be a new game. I'd be very surprised, but I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again, so keep that in mind. Yes, I think it's just going to be stuff for Legion, X-Wing, Armada, whatever the other games are. You know, I don't think it's going to be new products, but I would love, I think, FFG to realize that X-Wing did well because of its scale. Like, you know, it takes an hour, not many models if you want it. Some people like me maybe buy a little bit too much, but that's fine. And you know, I think it's the way that the industry as a whole is perhaps going. It's the way that in my mind I'm possibly going in the future. And yeah, I think there's a couple of options there. You know, you don't have to use a relationship with Disney. I'm sure there's probably other IPs out there that aren't Disney that would be very interesting. Now, I've spoken before about what IP they could get, and I keep mentioning Marvel, right? I'm very much aware that there are 2 Marvel games, so I think getting a third would be unlikely. You've got like the HeroClix thing with WizKids. They have that, they use that, fine, but it's got like booster bags and packs and stuff like that. It doesn't really seem to be like, in my opinion, it's obviously aimed at children, and I don't think it's got the legs to go into a full-blown war game, skirmish game kind of thing, right? I mean, maybe I'm slagging off HeroClix there, but then you've got what are they called? It's the people who make Harry Potter and the Batman miniatures game. Night Models. They have the Batman game, and it's sort of expanded into a DC universe, and there were Marvel characters in that. I don't understand where that game's at to really talk about it, but that's the second game that is using those models. So for FFG to go to Marvel or Disney and be like, yo, I don't know why they sound like this. It's like a really high-pitched gangster. Yo, bro, why you gonna... very offensive, I do apologize. You know, you gonna give me the license to Marvel? No, we've already given it to 2 other companies. You're out of luck, mate. Okay, what else you got? No, Marvel don't really have anything, so that's it. That's your run. So there could be something else. I don't think it's going to be Marvel. I would love a 2x2 skirmish Marvel game, but I don't think that's going to happen. This look at this. I'm going to stick my head in this. Ah, it burns. Yeah. So I think FFG should move into the skirmish industry, skirmish wargaming market. I don't really know how they would do that. I think there are some IPs still left untouched. Obviously, a lot of the big ones are done. Lord of the Rings done. Harry Potter done. You know, there probably are some out there, but there's Hunger Games has already been done, like in a board game sense. You know, Game of Thrones done. So who knows? Who knows? I just personally would very much like to see that. And yeah, I talked about me, and I think. I was right. I'll just be honest with you right now. I was considering making a terrain channel. Then I realized I tried making some terrain. I wasn't really digging it. It was a lot of effort, a lot of stress, and I didn't really want to do it. I think when it comes to terrain, I don't like making terrain. But I like people making the terrain after that they made it from me, if that makes sense. I like that reward. So I can't bother with that. So I've made another channel called Rage Crit, which is essentially just going to be me talking about mainly skirmish war games, but basically I'll go into it in probably a separate post, but basically it's going to be me talking about skirmish war games, Kill Team Vanguard, Warcry, whatever takes my fancy at the minute. I'll put a link in the description. If you're interested in that, do consider checking me out there, and if not, fine. This channel is going to remain dedicated to probably, let's just say FFG. It's probably going to be Legion and X-Wing, unless they release another game which catches my interest. Those two games are the things that I'm really interested in, and they're not going away. It's just that if I start, I don't want to get caught up in the Warcry hype only to not play it 2 months later and people be like, why are you not doing Warcry anymore? I don't really want to deal with that. I want to just be like, Legion, X-Wing, done. And it's mainly Legion, let's be honest, and that's going to stay. I love Legion, it's not going anywhere. I just want to do something else, and I don't want to ruin what I've built here, so that's the reason. Hopefully you're okay with that. If you're interested, do check that out. I'll put a link in the description. I've already made one video, so fine. If not, then you know, I'm waiting for some Legion news, aren't I? Ding! Have a beautiful day, like and subscribe, and goodbye. Bye guys.